So Laurel, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you back here on stage. You're a regular at the Toronto Global Forum.
Pleased to be
here. And we're
here.
always pleased to have you as a part of this. So let's get right to it. I'd love to have you talk about your role in attracting global companies to invest in our country, but also to talk to us about why foreign direct investment is frankly so important to Canada, and tell us a little bit about the FDI landscape here in Canada right now.
Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Invest in Canada, what we do. So we are an entity of the Government of Canada responsible for attracting and landing foreign direct investment into Canada. So on the attraction piece, we do global advertising to get Canada's value proposition in front of decision makers. Not general advertising, but to get it in front of decision makers to help them have an understanding of why they should invest in Canada. What is our value proposition? And that's been talked about here, and Heather was talking about it a moment ago. So we promote Canada on the world stage at events in targeted industries. So at Invest in Canada, we work to land large scale, nationally important and transformative investments in certain sectors. Energy, the one that I think we're going to talk a little bit about today, being one of them. And when an investor is interested in investing in Canada, and for the audience, if you have clients that want to invest in Canada, we can help do that. We really help them understand the landscape. Who do they need to know? What are the incentives? How do the tax credits work? All of the questions that an investor has to get to that final investment decision, it's our job to get the answers to that. Sometimes I describe it as a bit of a federal government whisperer of understanding, of bridging the gap between business and investment. So go to your second question. Why is FDI important? FDI is important because 1 in 8 Canadian jobs is connected to an international investor, and somebody that came to Canada, created opportunity. And maybe I'll use one example because I always think it's great to paint a picture. So I don't know if the audience, if everybody knows where Portage La Prairie, Manitoba is, but that's what I'm going to talk about right now. Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, Roquette, P fractionation company came into Manitoba. What do they bring? They create really strong jobs. They create a cluster around them in terms of the economy in Manitoba. They drive innovation, they drive productivity, they drive that internationalization. They already have a network. So you see that one investor can really create this ecosystem and this cluster in this community. And that's critically important for our economy. We have been built on that. Of course, we have amazing Canadian companies that have started here from the ground up, but that balance of bringing in global players who are in line with what we want to create in Canada. And in the instance of pea protein fractionation, it takes us from selling a commodity to now selling a truly finalized agri-product around the world that has a variety of areas that it meets, and a variety of demands that it meets. So I think it's a good example of what does that mean in a concrete way.
So you've mentioned, and the video that played just before we started talking indicated the sheer scale of the projects that you're looking at. But can you talk to us a little bit about where the investment opportunities lie right now from your perspective?
So I wanted to also, I thought that it was great that Heather was positive about where Canada was, and maybe I'll just try to make sure that the audience understands Canada is doing very well when it comes to landing foreign direct investment. Record year in 2024, $85.5 billion worth of investment, 36% increase in the year over year. In 2025, we are seeing ourselves on track above the 10-year average, even in this time of chaos. So good things, investments are happening. The area of opportunity that I think is crucial and is very relevant to the conversation here at IEFA is clean growth. Mm-hmm. There is a world of opportunity. I think I would describe it as we can all find opportunity among this chaos, this geopolitical chaos that exists, by looking for who, for example, needs a home. Who, as a result of something like the Big Beautiful Bill, doesn't feel connected, doesn't feel supported by where they might have chosen. These are not American companies. These are companies that made decisions. We were talking to them, for example, in many instances, and we landed some and we didn't land others. And decisions were made, for example, on carbon management that well, I will, for example, look, a company might look to the United States. Those companies now, it's an opportune moment for us to reconnect with them, and that's what we're doing. So those are the types of things of looking for the opportunities that exist. We have the privilege of talking to companies all around the world, and our Prime Minister often says, Canada has what the world needs and wants, and we do. And so if you look for those opportunities of what does Korea need, what does Japan need, what are those companies looking for to establish in Canada, and they have been investors in our country, and we need to demonstrate and provide those investable opportunities to them to be able to meet the needs that they have. Because FDI is a win-win for Canada and for the country of the company that is making that investment into Canada as well.
So I want to take this idea about opportunity in a different way now, because you've talked often about the opportunity that Canada has to align its climate commitments with global investment. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that means in actual practice?
So when companies are looking to set up large operations, it's crucial for them where the electricity comes from, as an example. And that's been a big part of the conversations that I've been involved in today. So the fact that 82% of our grid is not emitting, that's crucial. The fact that Canada remains committed to net zero by 2050 is crucial for a company who has sustainability in their DNA and has not wavered from that. So in terms of Canada has always been an energy superpower. I think we are leaning in as a country to being both a renewable energy superpower and a conventional energy superpower. And we're recognizing the history that we've had in our country of the strong talent. Carbon management. I'm from a community in Saskatchewan, Weyburn, Saskatchewan. Way back in the day, Weyburn was one of the first communities to use carbon management in the energy space. So the talent that we have in Canada is second to none in terms of the experience for companies looking for that. But it is important that we find the opportunity and respond to the realities that exist for companies who are looking to drive that innovative change and want to be part of what we have in what we have. So LNG, you think about the opportunities that exist for us to find international investors. We have found them. We continue to work to make sure that that's a reality.
So if we stay on the climate conversation, you were a part of something called Climate Week recently. What were international investors telling you there? So
they crave a welcoming jurisdiction, a jurisdiction that is aligned with their values. You're seeing that alignment from a company to country level. You're seeing it from a country to country level. For example, if you think about the critical minerals and the Critical Minerals Production Alliance that the Government of Canada is establishing, that's looking for like-minded partners who want to be part of transitioning our economy, and there's certain elements that are needed to be able to do that. So they're looking for that. They're looking for predictability and stability. Those are things that Canada is demonstrating consistently, a predictable and stable environment. And I think that is in contrast to south of the border as an example. And so that piece, they want regulatory understanding. They want to see streamlined regulatory efficiencies. The government is leaning in with the creation of the Major Projects Office. Listen, these are not simple steps, but there's a willingness and there's a desire to have one project, one review. All of those things are important to investors who are looking at long-term investments. They can't have the rules change 6 months from now.
Sure. And that, unfortunately, has been part of our problem leading up to now. So if you could just summarize quickly, would you say that they're looking at our country as a good investment right now when it comes to clean?
Absolutely. I think this is a key opportunity for us in Canada. We have the talent, we have the willingness, we have the history of leaning in on energy, and we have opportunities right across the country from coast to coast to coast. And those companies that we have talked to for a number of years, some have made the decision to come to Canada, some are going to make the decision to come to Canada, and it's really important for us to highlight the value proposition in terms of the talent, the ecosystem, the university, and the fact that everyone is leaned in Canada to make them be successful and help them be successful.
From your perspective, traveling all around the world. Give us a sense of what you think the competition for global investment looks like, and then also what Canada can do to win that race.
The competition is fierce. I hope the audience does not leave this room thinking that it is not fierce. It is fierce. Countries all around the world, really, I will sit in rooms sometimes and think they want to be Canada. They're talking about the value proposition that is our value proposition.
They should be so lucky.
They should be so lucky. And I think that that's an important aspect of the privilege that I have to travel all around the world and sit in. Everybody does want to be us. And we can have all sorts of conversations about why we should be better, why we should improve certain things, but we also need to recognize that we have so much going for us as a country in terms of leaning into the opportunities, and that's what we do at Invest in Canada. But it is fierce. Countries who up until now would have, for example, willingly said, not pressured one of their companies to establish or a second site in that jurisdiction, there's pressure. There's pressure that's on companies, and there's a lot of companies who right now we are working so closely with globally who are making investments into Canada, and one of the things they say to us is, but I don't want any announcements about it, which is very different than about a year ago. And so we're happy to do that. We want the investment. We want to see the jobs created. Whether there's a big announcement about it, that's not our concern, but that just gives you a sense of the pressure on global executives in terms of the world that they're functioning in.
How do you navigate that pressure, Laurel, when you're having these conversations? Because these really are unprecedented times. Every single person in the room is feeling it. How do you navigate that?
I think you want to be, it's crucial that we sign NDAs on behalf of the Government of Canada. We live up to those NDAs. We're very, very careful about protecting client confidentiality. We work on the cusp of government and business. Very important that we, find solutions, work at the pace of business, and those are some of the initiatives that you see rolling out across the government. Get those solutions. Sometimes it's an interpretation of how something would work by Environment and Climate Change Canada that would be the determining factor of whether an investment comes to Canada. We sleuth out and find out those answers to get to decision point, and we do it at a speedy pace, because businesses need to move at speed. So there's that, but it's really understanding the realities of the business and saying, we want this to be a win-win for Canada and for you. We want you to be successful here. So that's our goal. We are I describe our team as becoming part of the client's team. We are equally as desirous of seeing a success as they are, and that's crucial.
Let's talk a little bit about how Canada is successfully de-risking clean economy investments. What more needs to be done on that front? What more needs to be done to actually bring those projects here to Canada?
So we talk a lot globally, for example, when we're in Indo-Pacific as an example, about the tax credits, the evolution of Canada's response on investments to a tax credit model. So there's investment tax credits available in carbon capture and utilization and storage, hydrogen, clean tech manufacturing. As someone who has been in government, been on the outside of government, the value of a tax credit is that tax credits are stable, they're consistent, they are not negotiated. You can go to your service provider in terms of your accountant. You'll understand what you will get if you do certain things. That's clarity for a business. Sometimes businesses want to know, just tell me the answer, even if maybe it's not a good answer. Maybe it's, this is going to be more problem. They want clarity, they want predictability. So a tax credit model is valuable for that. The fact that you have from the top of the leader, the Prime Minister, Minister Hodgson, as an example, saying, we want to listen to business, we want to talk to business, we want to understand how we can improve our business environment here in Canada. That's the work that we are doing as well. We have global roundtables, so we talk to business about specifics about how we can improve our climate, how we can move barriers out of the way. Was in a discussion with Heather and a number of energy executives this morning, and I take that away and say, how can we be more responsive, and how can we identify the opportunities, and really move at the speed of business and have that be a success.
So I don't mean to put you totally on the hot seat here. However, just
it wouldn't be the first time.
Well, and you have the political experience that informs the kind of work that you're doing now. There is a sense in the country, at least there has been for the past few months, that the change in leadership at the federal level has meant that there is a more business focus. You've talked about listening. Are you also finding that the listening is moving into action on the federal level to support the work that you're doing?
So I think that you need to only look at the first bill, the Build Canada Act, the Major Projects Office, who we will work side by side with. They'll be doing some work, we'll be doing other work. So there's steps being taken to ensure that we are able to move quickly, that we are able to be responsive, and that we are embracing what we have. Critical Minerals Production Alliance, example, the work, we've traveled with Critical Minerals Company all around the world. We do a little bit of a different work there. We actually work to get investments into the critical minerals projects because you can't come in. That's not a greenfield project. Mm-hmm. Someone has that project and they need to scale. So it's thinking through how can we deliver for communities across the country, job creation, opportunity, and not have a cookie cutter approach. And I think that is crucial in terms of, again, problem solving, creative problem solving it is one of those things. I also wanted to just comment on the moment. I think the moment right now is there is a very strong Team Canada approach. Mm-hmm. I've been privileged to have this role for the past 3 years, and we are working more closely than ever before with provincial leadership. Hanover Messe last year, I co-hosted Canada's event with 2 premiers, with Premier Moe and with Premier Legault, because it was in the middle of a federal election campaign. And that is a really unique opportunity where Canada is talking about how it can be successful across the country. If one province can't take an investment, for example, because they don't have sufficient electricity, there's a willingness for us to take that project to another part of the country. Let's win for Canada. Each province wants to win for themselves. Each city wants to win for themselves, but it's really important that we win for Canada. The last thing that I wanted to identify that we do as an organization is capacity building across the entire ecosystem of investment attraction, because we need one value proposition for Canada. We can't have different things that we're saying, and we need to also understand and share information in real time. And we try to do that with all of our provinces and with all of our municipal partners, because investment attraction is a team sport. And Canada's secret sauce is that we act as a team, and we're continue to improve that. So there's 2 things. One, having a point of contact for a company, for example, that we do with companies, that is really crucial to get them across the line. And 2, it's that we are winning for Canada, and we are trying to identify how we can solve problems, remove barriers for them to get to that investment attraction decision, to get to that decision, that final investment decision. And then we don't stop, because then you want to get the project built, and there's still going to be things that need to evolve, barriers that need to be removed, but there's a willingness and a desire to see that happen and do it at scale and at pace.
Okay, so let's build on that quickly in our final minute. How do you see Canada maintaining its momentum and seizing the leadership opportunity that this moment really allows?
So one, I'm going to have an ask for the audience, is that when you are out speaking about Canada, talk about the value proposition. Know to your contacts, to your investors, to others that you are doing business with. Share the information about Canada. Make sure that, and we can help. I mean, if we can help in that way, let's do that. I think it's also crucial for us to recognize what we have. We have so many great things in Canada. We have the resources, both natural and talent. We have the clean energy, we have the willingness, we have the environment, and it's a great place to live. But it has to be more than a great place to live. It has to be a great place to do business. And although that there's improvements that can be made, it is a great place to do business. And that's what the businesses who come to us and establish from around the world tell us on a daily basis.
Laurel, thank you for this pep talk and for these excellent points that you've made today. It's been a real pleasure to have you back on the stage at the Toronto Global Forum. Thank you,
Laurel. So much.
So we have one more fireside chat that is lined up before lunch today, and this one features someone who lives and breathes Canada's energy future. That's Michael Harradence, the Senior Vice President and President of Gas Distribution and Storage at Enbridge, who will be in conversation with Zach Cutler, Toronto office managing partner and senior partner with McKinsey and Company. Laurel and I will cede the stage to them as they play these partner messages.